Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mary, will you take roll, please?
Murray?
Here.
Henrik?
Yep.
Getzinger?
Here.
Job?
Here.
Swacky?
Set and amend the agenda. Find a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second? Anybody?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
On the agenda, public comments? Hearing none, we'll move into our new business. Fiscal year 24-25 general fund budget modifications. It was obvious from our meeting that our budget didn't pass, so we have to have another budget workshop to put our numbers in order, so that we can call another public hearing for truth and budget.
If I may, would it be beneficial to have board members express concerns that they had at the meeting that prevented approval, so maybe we know where to target
It wasn't approved.
changes?
It wasn't approved. We're working on a budget to move forward.
Yeah, I just mean, is it beneficial to ask, there's 3 no votes, and maybe all of us have concerns with it, can we ask what those concerns are to maybe come to an agreement, make those changes?
I kind of did that in our budget workshop prior, because I did ask for a majority consensus of the board before I put the budget in front of the public, and it still didn't pass.
Yeah, in that case, and it occurred to me after that meeting that we did go through line by line, which wasn't bad, but when we were done, we should have asked if there was support for it as a whole, you know, and so I think that's where we went wrong. So I don't know if there's,
Well, there was
if we know
support for every agenda item by the board, which is why I put the budget together like it was.
Okay, so, but you, for example, you had voted no on the budget. What was your concern that prevented you from approving the budget?
There isn't any perfect world where everybody's going to agree on everything.
And you
My
vote, but you,
responsibility is to get the consensus of the board and put together what the board, you know, by majority supports moving forward. I can say, I don't like the way the guy sweeps the sidewalk. He charges me too much money. I can say anything.
yeah, I mean, my question to you specifically was, you voted no at the last meeting, so was there something that prevented you from, if you're saying we went through it so we could all agree, and you're implying that you thought we all agreed, but you'd voted no, was there something specific that caused you to vote no at the last meeting?
Yeah, because
I'd like to know if we should.
Because it's our privilege to vote like. It's
Okay,
our privilege
so
to vote on.
there's not something specifically you'd like to see changed in
Well,
the budget that was
what we
presented
did,
at the last
Mary
meeting?
and I, along with Chris, Martin sat down, we talked. Chris explained a lot about the budget to us. We've put the budget in front of us that the board is going to discuss
So,
tonight.
so
Okay.
2 of the board members met and talked about and made changes that you think us as a whole will approve? Is that what you're telling me?
Okay,
Well,
so,
okay,
okay, go ahead.
Can you speak in the mic a little more about?
most certainly.
I'm just trying to understand.
We're going to go through the budget right now. So
Okay. So that's good, and I find it very disturbing that our last budget workshop, I had been working 4 days on what was in my box back there. And then that night, we get a new one that Chris Martin had printed out, her and Sarah had printed out for you that day. So the numbers that I had.
No, that's not
yeah,
true.
Yeah, this is
That's
it.
just the one
No,
I
This
had
is
this
the
year.
new one.
The
I
budget-
did
This
not
is
no,
the
print
new
budget
one.
that
anything
was
out.
put-
Yeah, that wasn't the budget.
I
though.
think
That
that
was
was-
just our
This
recap.
This was to show, but the numbers were
That
not,
wasn't the
that they were
budget,
going
no, the
over.
budget,
And it
Mary,
wasn't done
Mary
by
posted
me
the
and
budget.
Chris,
Mary
so-
got the budget, she put it online.
We had that, and the numbers that we were going off of were mostly off of this and not everything, because the numbers that I had
The numbers.
were different. They were different. They were different, and I'm gonna say something.
I gave you the most
were not
up-to-date
different.
one on there.
I'm telling you, we were going off of more
Well,
so
this is the
than we
here and
were
now.
going off.
Right.
The
that
one
what we
went
had in
through on
front of
March
us.
5th, these are the changes in red, those are the changes.
Okay, so this is, and then going through that, as we were going through that last line by line, there was no rhyme nor reason for who was getting what amount of raise. So that was so disturbing to me. You have the senior center getting a 5% raise, planning commission 3.2, the.
Clerk was
requ-
4.5.
Clerk, 4.5. It was all over the place. No rhyme nor reason. So just so that you guys know, and I want to know, how much is the current ZBA amount? What do they get right now, their per diem?
5401.
Yeah,
54?
yeah.
I'm just going to stay on all of it. So how did 75
Gail gets
happen?
65.
How did 75 happen?
That was my
I know,
suggestion,
okay.
because they work under me. And
Okay.
I've got people like on the Board of Review and the zoning board of appeals that have to leave their job per day for $100. I got, one of them was a medical assistant, the other one's a CNC programmer, and one of them's retired.
And some of them, maybe
What's-
that's their public service. So I'm going to vote no, just so that you know. I think that there needs to be a rhyme. There needs to be a reason for this. So my reason is, I will support
What's the,
every
what's-
employee at 3.2%
what's
that
the-
cost
what's
of
the per
living.
diem for the secretary and the planning commission?
75.
Okay,
It's been 75 for
a long time.
a long time.
So that number didn't get pulled out of our ass.
The
number got-
75, you know what?
It's a per diem for the secretary to take the minutes at the planning commission meeting.
I understand that.
Okay,
I understand that. She will also be getting that amount as ZBA secretary. So have a reason as to why you are doing that. Where did $75 come from? If they have, I had to leave my job early to
Right.
be here. I don't get paid for that. I'm not on salary. I'm not an elected official that gets paid whether they're here
You
or
know,
not.
I hate to break it to you, but you are an elected official.
Exactly, exactly.
Well, you said
And
you
I am
weren't.
here. I am here.
Right.
So, but the point
paid to come.
is,
And
have
I'm
a
the
reason.
secretary on the board of review, and I don't get $75.
Nor should you. You're
Right.
the
Got it.
supervisor.
I understand that. Works fine.
To Monica's point, I do think that she makes a good point as far as there was inconsistency. And actually, I thought that it hadn't occurred to me till after our last budget meeting was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but last year, the clerk, the supervisor, and the treasurer got 7% raises, is that correct?
No,
What was it last year?
cost of living was,
I thought it was
6 point
7%.
something.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know.
And I never took anything last year.
You didn't last year, I couldn't remember. I know
was
that a
whatever.
couple of the official, so that being the case, that to me was a significant raise, if I had remembered that. Historically, my opinion on the elected officials is consistent with Monica's as far as the elected officials shouldn't be giving ourselves raises, and I did, again, relent this year, but having thought of it more, I do kind of go back to that opinion that as elected officials, we should evaluate that maybe in, and I don't know, the best way to do this, because we had this discussion last time, would be, prior to the election, say in October, is there a way to discuss what the incoming board would receive at the next budget? You know, that's how
I've
I
never
would
heard of
perceive that,
October.
so my opinion would
I
be,
talked to MTA. They
my
said you
opinion
would
would
have to
be,
have it on the agenda, and then it
Well, then
has
why
to
don't
be
you bring
voted
it to
on
us
in
so we all
November.
know this? Usually, it doesn't matter if it's an
Doesn't-
election
You guys are
year.
all on the MTA, you guys are, everybody
don't
up
see
here
everything
can
that comes through.
contact with the MTA.
All I've ever said was that if you're gonna take a raise other than cost of living per se, it should be done prior to an election year, so that anybody running for office knows what that office carries. It's the office, it's the position, it's the people.
Bruce
yeah,
is
and
doing
I
it,
I
Ray
think,
Township's doing it.
maybe we're talking
I
the
mean,
same thing, but I think that,
every-
of course, the treasurer and trustee Job and myself requested a 0% raise, but my opinion is that if we should be requesting 0% here at the budget and discussing in October with the intention
Well,
of the
there-
next
again,
4 years, we get that.
As far as.
And then the rest of
as
the
far as
personnel, the 2.3%, I would
As far
support
as
that.
the supervisor and the clerk, treasurer, and trustees is, the budget is the pay. But as far as anybody else, the budget is the budget and the pay is hourly or salary. So you have to make sure that you don't confuse, we're setting a budget for the supervisor with we're setting a budget for the senior center director, because that's her budget, but that doesn't mean that's what she makes. Matter of fact,
I understand.
when I spoke with Donna, she is apt to take 3.2%, which is COLA, as in opposed to whatever it was.
5%.
Well, no, right,
Yeah,
It was 5%.
right, it's 3.2, and she's fine with that. Because I said it needed to be consistent. And that's why I
Yeah,
asked for 3.2.
so again, I think that all the hourly employees that we discussed previously, I would support the 2.3%. Now it's
It's 3.2.
3.2.
I'm sorry,
3.2.
3.2, I'm
3.2.
sorry, yeah, 3.2, I
That's-
wrote it
that's,
down wrong.
And I would support that
And
as
That's
then-
the
well.
COLA for Social
And then I
Security.
would support, no raises for us as
Well,
board
right now, we're
members.
just looking at the budget.
Well, I would support a 0 increase in the budget then, if you wanna talk semantics, but, and then, to me, we should have a, comparison sometime later, September, October, of surrounding communities'
We've done that
expectations.
before.
Well, let's
We've
do it
done that
again,
before,
let's do
Jim.
it again. If you want a 7% raise, 6 point whatever last year, and you want a 4.5 this year, we need to have some proof for that.
Why
And
don't you guys do your research? Why don't you go and do it?
We-
Okay,
what I
Richmond
mean?
is
That's why
not
I'm saying
anywhere
0.
near what
Yeah.
we are, so.
All right, I'm gonna weigh in.
And the
also.
other ones don't take the $4,200 annual income for a year. And don't forget, Mary, you're getting $3,600 as the fire department administrator.
Right, and it's not a statutory duty. I don't have to do that.
Then don't do it. You won't give that up. You'll keep doing it. So
Well,
you're
then you're gonna
already
have to hire
making
a
more than
full-time
they are.
person to do everything
No,
else
you
I
won't.
do.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
Yes, you will, yes, you
No,
will.
they already do it themselves.
They were already, they've been doing it.
All right,
So-
I am
so that's-
still opposed to the wage increases for the senior director, the deputy clerk, and the clerk, and this is my reasoning. And in March of 2022, a 5.9% COLA increase was given to the senior director, the deputy clerk, deputy treasurer, and deputy supervisor. And in September of 2022, the deputy treasurer was hired to do the building and planning department. She continues to be my deputy in the treasurer's office. However, she declined wages for both departments. So effective the first pay period in October of 2022, she was no longer receiving deputy treasurer wages, although she still does do a good amount of work of stuff that I need or ask her to do, and
reconciliation.
the reconciliation, so that two different sets of eyes and hands are on the banking information. And then on October 12th, 2022, after my deputy was no longer receiving her deputy treasurer wages, the deputy clerk received another increase. This time it was 9%. So now she's up 15% in a year, in a matter of 7 months. This increase was also mid-budget year, so it did have a pretty drastic impact on the budget, which then, of course, led to budget amendments. Then we had the election of 2022, and Monica, you won the open trustee position. Budget meetings commenced as usual in January of '23, and at the March 8th budget hearing, you instigated the removal of deputy supervisor's wages and line item, which I'm assuming you are unaware is illegal. Yet the deputy supervisor continued working with no pay and also did work for other board members when they asked her to do it, knowing full well that she wasn't getting paid, which I think took some audacity, but my opinion. With the proposed increases for this year's budget, for some reason, I was under the impression that the total line item wasn't going to increase. The wages may, but the line item wouldn't. But somehow the deputy clerk's line item has increased, even though it was increased recently. The clerk's wages were increased by 4.5%, supervisors only 3.2%, and this goes to what you guys were talking about with being consistent. 3.2 is the actual increase that is used by Social Security Administration when they set COLA. In my opinion, it doesn't matter to me what other communities may be doing. Our eyes should only be on our community, on our taxpayers, and not what everyone else may or may not be doing. With these wage increases, it's more important than ever to keep a close eye on the hours worked and the line item budget to make sure that no department goes over their line item. Constant budget amendments are completely out of control and unnecessary when you have a proper budget in place. So yes, I am still opposed to the wage increases for the full-time people. I am not opposed to the ZBA, to the planning commission, and to the board of review, because that's not their job that they get paid for, that they make their living on.
Yeah,
This is something that they do.
I agree
for the
with
commission,
the
so-
treasurer on those points because they're very limited. It's a set amount. Doesn't matter how long the meeting is, and
Correct.
sometimes it may be a short meeting, but others may be long. So as far as the $75, I personally don't see an issue with that one. So I
The
just
real
believe-
fact of the matter is they're an integral part of the operation of the
I agree.
township. because
Absolutely.
The taxpayer sits in front of the taxpayer.
Yep, absolutely, I agree.
And specifically board review, because I've sat in on those. Those are long meetings, and you do have to take time off work to do, a full day in most cases, or at
Again,
least
these
a
are
half day, so I agree.
Residents approaching residents.
Oh,
It's
we're
usually important.
certainly required to do that too, but I do agree in the value in that, and I don't see that as a big,
And it was based on the per diem that we got for the secretary of the planning commission.
one, one more comment if I may. I know that you had mentioned there's some red lines that you guys had met and discussed. The concern that I have, and my perception may be off, but I know that the clerk's been very adamant at her interest in a raise. What I'm seeing here, I'm concerned, I feel like there's a kind of a conflict of interest here, the negotiations. I feel like this is a negotiation to get support for votes so the clerk can maintain her wages. So she's essentially negotiating so that her wage increase will stay in there. I don't feel that that's appropriate in this case.
That's your opinion.
And again, that's my perception. I could be completely mistaken, but that's how I feel, and I think it's important to say that.
Mary and I talked, and we never talked about if I give you something, will you give me something? I've asked Mary on several occasions, you sure you can't make deputy treasurer budget $20,000? She said she needs that much money to run the department, she insists. Who am I to tell the clerk what she needs? I've been trying to tell you guys what I need to manage the township and code enforcement, etc.
And speaking about that, so how do we know? Because when you brought up at the last meeting that Mary is the
Shouldn't
one that
interrupt.
wanted to put Robin Spalding in that position,
No, all
how
I did
did
was
that
ask John,
happen?
I said, if he wants her to get paid for it, just put it on the agenda, see what happens, that's all it is. And as far as my wage, right now, Dawn and I are forced to do extra work with early voting. We didn't vote for this, it's a lot of extra work, so that's why I'm asking for the 4.5%.
Remember that.
We're forced to do this, we are forced to do this, work 16 days in a row. And when John said, can you go down to 20,000, I can't go down to 20,000. We've got 2 more elections.
That's understandable. It should go to the deputy clerk, who is paid hourly. Because where she cannot take off and get paid, you can. Your salary, you can take a vacation.
I can hardly ever take a vacation, Monica. This is like a 7-day-a-week job, pretty much.
You certainly do have to run payroll every 2 weeks.
We share that too. You know, you got no respect for what we do at all.
The fact of the matter is, okay, this year this proposed budget for the board to
The
review.
$1,700 isn't gonna kill the
Well,
township.
again, this proposed budget that was put in front of the board is a balanced budget.
Well, it's balanced because we're now showing the use of 300,000 and
314,
fund balance, if that's how you,
which
if that's what
which
you want to
is
call
a
it, balanced
capital outlay
budget.
project, which is why the budget's always looked off, which is what really Chris helped us with, is in the budget, we had the $485,000 building fund in there,
That didn't-
Oh, yeah, I'm
which put us.
I'm glad that this
over $1
is
million
listed. I
over.
think we had a discussion about, it still doesn't show what the actual cash balance is, but it's on the treasurer's report. We had discussed it, so I just think that it's, at least if I were in the audience and I heard you say balanced budget, that to me would mean this year's expenses meet revenues, and I just thought it was important to clarify, we are spending down the fund balance for capital outlay projects.
Yes, and that does need to be specified in the budget. Because that's the only reason it's balanced at this point.
Could you
Well-
state that again? I didn't understand.
Okay, so there's excess money, revenue that has been, it's in CDs, it's in the bank, whatever. So now, in order to have this budget that we're gonna be adopting, in order for it to be balanced, which means 0, 0, 0, it's gonna be zeroed out, we have to take some of that money that is set aside and put that into this budget in order to make it a balanced budget.
That's partly correct, but
That is
the
correct.
money is not being used for everyday operations. The money is coming out of the investment accounts to pay for the senior center North Avenue Road project.
Which is basically money that is set aside in the bank. It's taxpayers' money that is set aside for capital improvements.
And that is a capital improvement. So we are using taxpayer dollars wisely. It is not being used to keep the lights on.
Right.
And it has nothing to do with payroll either.
No.
Yes, I mean, some years are like that. We're saving to spend more. I think it's
Right.
important to explain that. All right, well, so we've all kind of said our opinions, but now we have to figure out how to, I know there's some adjustments in red that the clerk and the supervisor are proposing. We still need to get to a point where we can, we think we have support for the budget.
Where do you see it in red?
This,
Well, this is what I pulled out of my boxes today.
today, the first page, there's in red.
Revised,
It
Dated the
says
20th.
revised in red, yeah, 3/20. Yeah, that's the one,
Set.
yeah.
Okay, in the tax income column, the money that was estimated to come in from the schools was $7,035. That was added to our income line. The $314 or $314,000 represents the engineering and the construction rebuild of the park entrance and senior center parking lot.
And that money is coming from the investment money that we've been saving
From, that's
for the
our-
projects.
Our use of, yeah, it's our use of fund balance.
Do you know which, because there's some that say building fund, some that say general fund?
General fund. It is not coming out of building, it is coming out of the general fund investment.
And again, I've always insisted right along that Robin plays a pretty important role, whether you guys want to admit it or not. She does. She's worked on chart of accounts. She's worked on the trusting agency. She's done things that even Jim asked for say, which was the letters. And okay, it's not a lot, but she does do a nice job of it. And she's handled code enforcement now for 2 years plus with me, and neither one of us get compensated for any of that. Any of it. It's just, well, you're just supposed to. Or you're never here. I'm never not here. You have to choose not to get a hold of me, not to get a hold of me. You have to make that choice, not to be able to call me, or get a hold of me, or email me, or meet me someplace, or have me meet at a meeting. I don't miss anything, which is another reason why my secretary is, deputy is important to me, because she does keep me on task and make sure that between the balance of trying to make a living at a job and manage the township, that I don't miss my responsibilities. That's hugely important. So yeah, the $5,000 budget line was put back into there because I, like Mary said, I need this to run my department. And it's a budget.
You said 55?
5,000.
Five
5,000,
thousand.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
So as far as your comments,
Which is
certainly we need to
very
resolve
minimal.
the code official. We've had some discussions. It's, to me, it's not, we were paying somebody in the past, and unfortunately, that didn't work out. And we're
Why
trying
did
to-
that not work out? What
Well, I
happened?
don't think that's a discussion right now. We do need to talk about that, though. So I don't think that, or at least I've certainly never implied that you should be doing that for free. You certainly oversee that, and you're filling in, and it'd be in your interest and the township's interest to try and get that resolved. And I've commented before, certainly I do think that the work that if we're talking about Robin specifically, I do think she does good work, and she's certainly valuable to you. My concern has always been that historically, the supervisor's position and the wage for the supervisor has been, has assumed that there's not a deputy. I don't think that the scope of the supervisor's job has changed drastically in that amount of time. So I think that if you feel you need a deputy, which may be true for you, that I've said before that really the total supervisor wage should be adjusted then if you're need somebody to fill in, to handle some things for you. That's just my opinion on it. So we haven't changed.
We,
And that would go-
And I
we
agree with
tried,
that.
we tried that
Treasurers-
once, and
Yeah.
they still took the whole thing out and put the
Does
$2,000
the
back in my lineup.
treasurer's
And quite
wage
honestly, you
come
can't
down
lower my
by
wage.
needing a deputy? Does
Well,
the
can't
clerk's
legally
wage
lower
come
my
down?
wage.
in
Again, I'm
tip
just
for the
giving,
deputy?
certainly I'm
No,
giving
I
you
know.
my opinion, but also you're statutorily required to have that, and you've had, the clerk and the treasurer have had a deputy for ever because they're required to, and to me, that's the difference. I'm not, I'm not making this opinion because of the specific individuals. I'm making this opinion because of that's been the traditional role, and then I haven't been able to convince myself that it's changed enough that to increase, basically to increase the supervisor's wage in a sense by this, the money to have the deputy. So I'm not trying to be offensive,
Well,
that's
I
just
mean,
my opinion on
And
it.
that's your opinion, we're all entitled to our own opinions, but if you go with what you guys are saying, some of you, if you look at other communities, I can't speak for all of them, but I know of many that do have deputy
Like, does Ray have a
Yeah.
deputy?
Yeah, I don't think he doesn't know.
Richmond
So-
does,
Richmond
and what is it,
Township does.
15 grand a year, something like that?
Lori gets like 9,000, I think, is,
And what does the supervisor make in Richmond if we want to compare?
that I have no idea.
Oh, we're-
And again, every municipality is different. You
Yeah, I
can't
know.
So
compare
that's
apples
why
to
we
apples and
don't-
oranges to oranges.
we can't
Everyone has to
compare.
do
Exactly.
what
We
fits
can't
our
compare.
needs,
We
This-
don't make what they make.
right?
Mary doesn't make what they make, I don't make what they make.
Well, that's why, never mind, okay.
So that's why we need to
Okay.
stop that comparison.
I'm going to vote no on that. I just think that before there was issues, I mean, here's this. Remember when they broke into your office, when she broke into your office, Mary? So, there's that issue. The supervisor and the deputy sued you and 3 other board members. The taxpayers had to foot that bill. To bring that back into this office, I just find it outrageous that that would even be a consideration, especially to handle code enforcement that's already a volatile situation anyway. But then you add somebody that's Sue Happy. Why do you think I got a hold of Dustin about the building falling in? Because I called him, I go, I don't want to be sued. If the board knows about this, I don't want to be sued. So we got to handle it. So, and I did get the information from Kevin Cannell, and I will make sure that Dustin gets that again. But I don't think it's a wise decision to do that. So I would be a vote on that. To not include the deputy supervisor wage again.
I hesitate to say anything, but definitely there's some history there. I'd like to think that, people can change or put, so we should try to take some of that out, but I would admit that I
Well,
still am
it's
gun shy.
historical,
I
people
still am
looking
gun
in the
shy
rearview
on,
window all the time, so.
I still am gun shy on, when I have conversations, I'm concerned is how's that gonna be miscued? And it takes time to forgive and to forget, and that, so.
That
So I-
makes it personal.
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah,
I'm,
that's
sa-
it.
I'm
Okay,
trying, I
personal
guess I'm
side.
trying to say we
Yeah.
should, not
That's
make
what
it
it is.
personal,
Right.
while still saying, I understand how, Trustee Job could bring those up. I
It's
guess is what I'm
not
saying.
personal. It's just, it's professionally,
Not at
I
all.
don't want to be sued.
Well, don't break the law.
That's it.
Don't break the law.
You did several times,
Nope.
and I could
Okay, let's
have
move on.
taken you to court, but why would I sue all the taxpayers? I
There you
said
go.
that to your deputy. Why would I sue all the
There
taxpayers?
you
Okay,
go.
can we look forward?
What a line of crap.
And let's get this done. I don't think any of us wants to be here all night listening to history when,
It's not
Other
history.
people like
It's
to
not
live.
history.
I know,
It's
it's-
sour milk.
I know what it is.
Really? Oh,
Yep.
more will be coming out.
Oh, can't
Go-
wait.
More
Let
will be
her- Let her
coming
go,
out.
baby. Let her go.
All right, let's move on, please.
Again, the board review wages went to $16.50. That was the $75 per diem, based on what we give the secretary of the planning commission. $21,500 was added in under the general governmental, because we are having the zoning ordinance book updated by Caitlin, and she was
A map?
paying her 20
think-
grand cheaper than the other ones.
I
Didn't
think
she
that
need a
only
map
went
in-
up,
What's that?
Would you increase that by 500 because of
Yeah.
the map burn
it was
or
only
something?
500 up, yeah.
Remember you said
Yeah,
they had to do a
Yeah,
map?
well, it's $360.
Oh, okay.
I approved it to
Alright.
go ahead. They need
Yeah.
they're talking about looking at the zoning district overlay and the size of properties and what you can or can't do on properties. And Caitlin offered to put a map together of all the properties at 10, 20, and 50 acre plus properties, so that when they do, they can look at a map and see how many properties
Properties
are in
that
what
it
areas
affects.
and on what roads and things like that, to better decide how they want to move forward with the overlay district and activities. Because we have Frontier Farms now asking for the ability to do things. We have Miller Farms asking for the ability to do things. So there are,
Frontier Farms is,
they
Yeah,
bought,
the
they bought
Van
Van
Hoody's.
Hoody's.
Van Hoody.
oh,
On
that's
32
right,
and Plank.
that's right, yeah.
So there's several properties that are ag and nature and farm-related, et cetera. Value-added farming comes to mind, but some of the properties are of different size, so in order, if they want to have some type of an event or whatnot, they're going to have to be able to qualify. So the planning commission is looking closer at what they can or can't do to make that possible for some of the taxpayers and property owners.
But
in
if
our-
they're a right to farm,
It's not a right to farm thing, okay? It's a zoning thing. So I did authorize Caitlin to put together the map for about $360 for the planning commission's visual inspection while they're talking over the need for the zoning.
who is determining whether or not it's right to farm or zoning?
That's,
Who's going to determine that?
that's not part of the budget discussion.
All I'm saying is the money was approved for Caitlin to put the map together for the planning commission. By me.
Of course, by you.
Under the governmental, there was $1,000 added to the miscellaneous expense IT, which is for a laptop. Mary needs to replace a laptop with the new voting.
Or even IT expense too,
Yeah.
because the day before elections, we had to have the IT company come out here, because our early voting laptop failed, and we were here till after 9 o'clock. That's another aspect, you know, we do work right up to the day we vote.
Now, maintenance chloride roads was changed to 18,326, and the reason for that was once we used the, when we had the use fund balance put in there, it got us down inside of $7,000 for a complete balanced budget. So the balance was removed from maintenance chloride roads to balance the budget. Community planner, 7,500, that's our new cost for Wade Trim. The park improvements, 135, and the maintenance senior, 141, is a split of the park entrance and parking lot and passing lane.
Yeah, it was previously all in the park.
Right,
Right.
that shouldn't show that because it is for the senior center as well. And then a dollar was left in capital outlay to keep that budget line open, making our proposed budget $1,676,373.67. That's money in, and $1,676,373.76 out.
So the, as far as the 314,000 shown as a use of fund balance. And looking at the treasurer's report, there's two funds that say general fund investment. They're total about approximately 240,000. And then there's 350,000 in the general fund, it just says. So if doing the math,
77,000 when you combine them.
how much is that?
I don't remember offhand,
277,
but
you said?
I think 477.
$477,000 in general fund.
Between in the two investment funds? I wonder, I just,
Well, one of them is listed as Flagstar, and.
one
wait a minute,
says
did I bring
Robinson,
out?
one
Hold on,
says
Let me see if I
Flagstar.
brought one with me.
Well, you know what, this is an old, I must have grabbed the old report, this is from January.
And
But- But it's two, okay, I just wanted to, I guess the question I'm really getting at was wondering how much, aside from what's in the building fund and the water sewer fund, how much approximately do you think we have in, or we'll call it cash or available funds,
Well, this will
left
take
after
down
this.
our investment a good chunk.
to,
We might, I'm hoping we have like 100 and some thousand
Okay.
left.
that's about what I was.
It's not gonna empty it out,
Okay.
but it's gonna take it down. And so I'm just gonna have to work harder to build that back up.
Okay. That's
Well,
about
we
what
get
I
good
was seeing
interest,
on
though.
here, and I just wanted to
Everyone
make sure I
knows
was
we got
looking at
good
that right.
Yeah, we are.
So
yeah.
our unassigned cash, if you will, I'm not a, a financial person, is approximately you think will be approximately 170,000 at the end of this fiscal year. Okay.
I'm hoping for more. The good thing is also that, these funds don't have to come out of the investment accounts and into the general payroll to write a check, or not payroll, but, general account to write a check from them for a
Until
few
we-
months yet. So we're continuing to earn interest until these bills come in and have to be paid.
Okay, and then it appears we have approximately 500,000 in saved as far as a building fund, and 80,000 saved for the water sewer, so
Right.
just making sure I understood that, okay, thank you. I'm sorry to kind of monopolize this discussion somewhat. Before we kind of talk as a whole here on this, so our next item has to do with setting the truth and budget hearing. I do want to comment that
It's not truth and budgeting, it's called
Or
a budget public hearing. We've
budget
already
public
had the
hearing, thank you for that. I wasn't contacted at least as far as if I was available on what days. We had a couple days, and I currently am not available.
I'm not available next
The
week.
treasurer is not available, so there's 3 board members that will be here, it sounds like, for that meeting. How, and forgive me because I don't remember, as far as the vote, is it majority that's present, or majority of the
Majority
board,
that's
meaning it'd have to have
present.
3?
Yep.
Okay.
What's
'Cause
the
that-
answer?
It's
Who's
majority
present?
So if there's 3 people here,
3
we need a
people's a
2 to
quorum.
1 vote would, was what would pass, any sort of motion.
And there's no Zoom or other options available?
You can't do it
No.
online, no.
No, we can't do it then. Only if you're in the military.
You can actually check in online and have an opinion, but you can't vote.
Yeah, and if there'd been a little bit of,
Meeting Act allowed.
No,
No.
So they all get their
and
raises.
if we had
Robin
a
will be
little bit of
back.
communication, I could have, I
It's
would have been
unbelievable.
available next week, Wednesday. Unfortunately, this was picked for some reason for Thursday.
And it was picked because we have a 6-day window that we have to post a public
Yeah,
hearing.
so yesterday, 6 days would have been Wednesday, so we did have the option of Wednesday or Thursday at the time. And I had expressed that, and unfortunately, it was,
Already posted in the paper.
It's the games,
well,
the
it could have
games,
potentially
games,
been
games,
changed. Was it
games.
actually posted at that point? That's
This
my
is the
Yeah,
concern.
I'm
agenda I
yeah,
got
It's
yesterday.
immediate when I do it on.
It's the
home
agenda I
daily.
got today
Okay.
for tonight's meeting. The games are
there's only
disgusting.
one person playing games. Let's finish this meeting.
So the budget public hearing is set for March 28th at 7 PM.
Okay. Well, then, how do you want to proceed on this?
Well, we're done, we
Just-
we
Yeah.
already reviewed it. I'll make
I
a,
have-
So do
That's
you-
ridiculous.
Say, all right, go ahead,
Let-
make the motion to get it
adjourn.
to, no, oh, we're not doing, okay.
No, go ahead.
As I said earlier, I don't like some of the increases in wages. The only reason that I would vote to approve this budget is because it is finally a balanced budget. And the reason it's a balanced budget is because we've all worked together and we're taking that money that we have set aside to do big projects and using it to do big projects. That's all I have to say.
Again, the games.
Yeah,
I was
lots
up
of
here
games,
yesterday.
Monica,
I'll
lots
make
of
a
games.
motion to set
This
the
is
public.
ridiculous.
Well,
Budget-
I'd
public-
still like to
What I got
have,
yesterday,
And Robert's
that's the
rules, I
agenda I
vote
got today.
I can't hear you.
As in Robert's rules, I vote.
Making deals, wheeling and dealing behind the scenes, it's
All right,
ridiculous.
I'll make a motion to set the budget public hearing for March 28th at 7 p.m.
Well, let's, make
yeah.
a motion to approve this to send to that public hearing.
That's
You
true.
don't think you could do that? You don't do that.
yeah, I'm not sure if we do, but so today, as far as our discussion, we really didn't do much different, but I know that the treasurer has voiced her support for it. Should we informally express if we are gonna support this, so
No,
at
that
the next
doesn't do
meeting, we
anything.
don't get to the, meeting and find out it fails again for lack of
There's only
support?
be
What
three
have we
of us
done
there.
different?
The clerk
Pass.
and the treasurer and myself individually talked, and everybody said what they needed. I called even Donna and said, you know, I really would like you to be okay, and she said perfectly fine with the 3.2% cost of living, because it was inconsistent, and Donna's fine with that. So we did all of our homework. This is the budget that the balanced budget that we put together to present to the public in a week.
So, again, here's my concern. If we get to that meeting,
We have a shutdown on the 1st of April.
okay, well, so is,
Why can't we have a meeting on Tuesday?
well, not,
Or
well,
on
there,
There's not
Wednesday?
enough
right
time.
now,
You
it's
have to-
already posted,
it's already
so now it
posted.
can't be.
Paper.
But
And
so
it's-
if,
and it's
okay, well,
been
if
posted
I'm,
for a
if
couple
I'm
days.
able to make
It
it
got posted
Thursday,
yesterday.
All right, a day, 2 days, today's a day, so.
2 days.
if I'm able to make it and I don't support this, so I feel like there's discussion and it's not fair to the board here, so the supervisor's saying, well, right now, with this group of 5, we have 3 votes, so there's no need to compromise anymore. Now, come next week, Thursday, if there's 4 of us here, or 5, or 3, that could impact if this passes, and I'm feeling like you're moving on with the assumption it's gonna pass, and it may not, and then we're gonna be in a spot. I feel like we haven't thoroughly
Happens in
tried
Washington
to
every year.
address,
Yeah, gonna shut down.
okay. Well, that may be the case, I mean,
Okay,
if we're not gonna have any more discussion, then I'm gonna figure out how to be here, and then it may not pass, because right now, my concerns haven't even been addressed. I certainly was able to say my piece, I appreciate that, but it didn't feel like there was no compromise on any of the concerns I had, so nothing's changed on my end, and, currently, I would say that I do not support
I
it.
did compromise on things, Jim, when I asked for
What
extra.
did you adjust?
When remember I
Since-
asked, remember when I gave you that, 1.5 page, and I
Since- I'm
outlined
talking
everything?
since
Excuse
last
me,
week
I'm talking,
Wednesday.
okay? I gave you the 1.5 page explaining what we do for the early voting, and I wanted $17.50 for each state and federal election and a little extra stipend for Dawn, okay? I gave that up. All I'm asking for is 4.5%, it's like $1,500.
you did.
I gave that up. In the other communities, if you do the research, they're giving their clerks additional stipends when those elections happen. So I gave that up. I
Well,
did give that
It
up.
was expressed at last meeting that that's not allowed, apparently, the supervisor thought it agreed with that.
Well,
it
no,
is allowed.
No,
So-
what it is they were putting the money into a retirement fund. If you put it into a payroll, you can't take it back out of a payroll.
Can't do that.
That became problematic, so Mary said, I don't want the money then. Just
Yeah.
give me the 4.5%.
Sure.
And Bob Siebert wrote a resolution for the Ray Township clerk, which is giving her an extra stipend in there, but I'm giving that up. I'm not even
And that
arguing
extra
with you people.
stipend goes into retirement.
So, not retirement, no.
No?
It's a lump sum for her. It comes
Okay.
out of the election department, not out of her wage, but out of elections.
And at-
Oh,
when-
okay.
Yeah.
At that budget
It makes
meeting, when we
sense.
had that discussion,
So anyways,
I was
I made a
clearly-
motion to
so
set
you're
the
gonna
public hearing
interrupt
for
me
March
now?
28th. Now,
After you didn't want me to interrupt you?
well, we didn't talk about the public hearing.
We're
You can
not
talk
onto that
after.
line item yet.
Keep going.
At that meeting, I definitely voiced my understanding that at the elections, you're definitely doing more. So to imply that I, didn't understand that. I supported it at the time. My concern now is, since the last, I'm talking since the last meeting when it failed, I haven't seen any changes on your end. I've only seen, the only change, significant change I've seen would be adding the money to the deputy supervisor, which apparently was all, maybe you needed to approve this. I'm not sure what compromise that's your compromise, I guess is what I'm getting at.
That's not a compromise. It's my request that we have somebody doing township work that this board has instinctively chosen not to pay somebody for. Because of personal reasons.
No, pretty
You said-
professional, pretty professional.
You said yourself,
Being
Jim,
sued
that she
is
does a good job,
professional.
Yep, I'm not denying that.
but we're not gonna pay her for that.
We have a deputy, we have a supervisor to do the work. I'm sorry, I don't understand why we need a deputy.
It's not your vote, though.
To vote come
I'm just trying to
the
avoid an
primary.
issue next week. That's why I'm
you know-
bringing all this up now.
We'll just, you know what, there'll be 3 of us here for sure. Hopefully you're here, because this has been a sham. It's been an absolute sham. It's been, I just cannot even get over
Is there a
it.
motion to present this budget at the budget hearing?
Again, are we allowed to, do we
All right,
actually need a
well-
motion for that?
Motion to present budget at budget hearing.
As presented to the, okay.
As presented. Do
Mary,
you support that?
Support, yes,
Mary, Patrick,
last.
Getzinger,
No.
Job,
No.
Patrick, Spike, yes, Patrick.
Yes. Now let's make a motion to set the public hearing for March 28th,
Motion
twenty
set,
twenty-four at 7 PM.
yeah, motion to set, budget public hearing for March 28th, 7 PM.
Is there support?
Support.
Again, my concern in all this is the feeling, like it wasn't, there was no communication with the rest of the board to make sure that we could make it. It just doesn't sit well with me. I guess that's my biggest concern, feeling like it hasn't been an
The
open,
treasurer,
transparent.
said what she needed to run her department, the clerk said what she needed to run her department, I said what I needed to run my
Well, I'm
department.
talking specifically about the date of this meeting.
The date was set
That-
by a public, notice of 6 days.
Or actually 7 days.
Well, it's the day after, because you have to send it to the newspaper, it doesn't
Newspaper.
come out
Well,
till
no, it
the
was in
next day.
immediately, she said.
Yeah.
And that was, we'd set the meeting on Tuesday, so technically it was 8 days, so there was 3-day window that we could've met. That wasn't important.
I don't know, that was how it was posted.
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to post, remember? But it's posted, it's the business of the township.
Games.
There was a motion and a second to hold the, public hearing on March 28th, 2024 at 7 PM at Township Hall. And it was seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No.
No.
Okay. Public hearing is set for March 28th, 2024 at 7 o'clock. Motion to adjourn,
Second.
5:48.